Chancellor, it is my honor to present to you Mr. Calin Rovinescu, President and CEO of Canada's largest airline, respected leader in the Canadian business community, and generous philanthropist. Mr. Rovinescu was born in Bucharest in 1955. When he was 6 years old, he and his family came to Montreal with only $200 and two suitcases to their name, speaking neither English nor French. From these humble roots, Mr. Rovinescu built an accomplished career for himself. He joined Stikeman Elliott in Montreal in 1978, and by the time he left in 2000, was managing partner of the firm. In 2004, Mr. Rovinescu co-founded Genuity Capital Markets, an independent investment bank that merged with Concordia Capital to form Concordia Genuity Group. Today, the President and CEO of Air Canada, a company that you may know, Mr. Rovinescu first joined the airline in 2000 as Executive Vice President of Corporate Development and Strategy. He also held key position of Chief Restructuring Officer during the airline's 2003-2004 restructuring. Under his leadership, Air Canada has built its international franchise, ordered new wide-body jets to renew its aging fleet, and reduced its annual cost by $500 million. In 2013, for the first time since 2007, the country's flagship carrier earned an after-tax profit despite continued volatility within the industry, probably one of the toughest industries to do business in. It's a testament to Mr. Rovinescu's success during this transition that Air Canada was recently named the best international airline in North America in the passenger survey by Skytrax World Airline Awards. Mr. Rovinescu is recognized across Canada for his strong business acumen. A member of the Quebec and Ontario Bar Associations, he serves and has served on boards for organizations such as the International Air Transport Association, Star Alliance, and the Canadian Council of Chief Executives. Even beyond the business community, Mr. Rovinescu's opinions are highly sought after. In addition to his current role as Chancellor at the University of Ottawa, he has lent his expertise to boards for the Montreal University Healthcare, the Centaur Theatre, the Lakeshore General Hospital, and the Montreal Chamber Orchestra. A generous supporter of health, education, and culture in Montreal, he chaired the Canadian Cancer Society's annual Daffodil Ball and served as an honorary chair for the Enbridge Ride to Conquer Cancer. With honorary degrees from the University of Ottawa and the University of Montreal, Mr. Rovinescu is a respected leader in Canada. More recently, he was named a Patron of Honor at the 2015 Ball for the Montreal Children's Hospital. He was honored with the B'nai B'rith Canada Award of Merit in 2011, received the Business Achievement Award at the 2013 Canadian General Council Awards, and was chosen that same year by the Globe and Mail's report on business as the best CEO of 2013. Just last week, he was named Canada's Outstanding CEO of the Year. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of Senate, the Board of Governors, it is my privilege and honor to present to you Mr. Calin Rovinescu so that you may confer upon him the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
I would like to ask Dr. Rovinescu to address the convocation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. I fear that the introduction may be longer than my remarks. Monsieur le Chancelier, Monsieur le Président et Vice-Chancelier, Monsieur le Président du Conseil, les doyennes, chers membres de la faculté John Molson, distingués invités, parents, amis et consoeurs et confrères diplômés 2016 de l'Université de Concordia, c'est avec fierté et humilité que je m'adresse à vous aujourd'hui. While I'm now part of Concordia's 2016 graduating class, my last real university degree was in 1980. In 1980, there was no internet, no World Wide Web, no personal computers. In 1980, digital music was what occurred when you pushed the on-off button with your digit to turn on your 8-track cassette. Cell phones were what prisoners used to use from their jail cells to make phone calls. In 1980, there was no Charter of Rights and Freedoms. In fact, back then, the closest thing we had to a Charter of Rights was the Ten Commandments. In 1980, a pioneering Canadian company, Bell Northern Research, was an upstart at the forefront of next-gen technology, handsets. It had yet to become Northern Telecom, once the most valuable and innovative company in the country, before disappearing in the next wave of technology evolution. We've indeed been privileged to see before our very eyes our country, and indeed our world, transform, progress, and innovate, rather dramatically and quite irrevocably. And change and disruption is where I want to start today. Why? Because we live in a world where the flood of choice, entertainment, and distraction never ends. That cell phone that didn't exist in 1980 can now literally browse 200 million websites, and we carry it in our pocket. Because we live in a world where the amount of science produced over the past 2 decades has been empirically proven to have surpassed all the discoveries created over the last 100,000 years. Because for the graduates of this university to succeed, and indeed for our country to succeed in today's globally competitive reality, change, disruption, and innovation have to be our weapons of choice. When it comes to global competitiveness, you can't legislate innovation, but you can certainly inhibit it by being just average. And let's face it, mediocrity is not good enough anymore. Not in science, not in technology, not in business, not in universities, certainly not in a hyper-competitive world where risk-taking and speed will play a much greater role in defining success. Sobering reality is that one will need a massive dose of change, disruption, and innovation to succeed. A workforce with a global mindset, unafraid of relocating, unafraid to take risk, open-minded to the consequences of disruption. One will need an innovative agenda that involves more than just doing the same thing over and over and over again and hoping for changed results. In this regard, I loved reading the 9 directions of Concordia, especially get your hands dirty, mix it up, experiment boldly, and especially go beyond. A great segue for my remarks today. Some of you may know Thomas Friedman, the well-known New York Times columnist who wrote the now famous The World is Flat, and who's spoken at length on disruption in another very insightful book called That Used to Be Us, which she starts by quoting President Obama in November 2010. It makes no sense for China to have better rail systems than us and Singapore better airports. And we just learned that China now has the fastest supercomputer on Earth. That used to be us. So just as the President of the United States asks, why is it exactly that China can build airports and train stations faster, cover more ground technologically, and develop new industries before our very eyes as we debate building bridges and roads for 5 and 10 years before deciding whether or not to proceed. In a hyper-competitive world, that can't continue. As Mr. Friedman suggests, for all practical purposes, average is over. Avoiding mediocrity in business involves taking risk and bringing in innovative products and services, even if we need to operate outside our comfort zone. People always feel risk. Yet to progress risk and risk of change, and even risk of failure, as our Chancellor just mentioned minutes ago, even risk of failure are not only good, but I would say imperative. Some of the very best lessons in life come from failure. Avoiding mediocrity involves participating in next-generation technology. Sometimes it takes more time, Sometimes we have to do it over a couple of times. But the best tech companies, as many of you know, operate in beta to succeed in the global arena. They try it over and over again, disrupting the incumbents again and again. Avoiding mediocrity involves being as nimble as an entrepreneur in an emerging market. I have the great privilege in my job of traveling to interesting emerging markets such as Brazil, China, India, South Africa, Turkey, UAE. All of these emerging markets share three common traits, almost without exception: speed, flexibility, and audacity. Avoiding mediocrity means being globally audacious. At Air Canada, we've made this a cornerstone of our strategy over the last several years, and our intention is to build nothing less than an international powerhouse for global traffic, a global champion. This entails playing into our strengths, numerous strengths, and leveraging all of our tangible and intangible assets. Why is this relevant in the context of my comments to you today? Because just as in business, likewise, in the university environment, avoiding mediocrity involves having an international mindset, developing quality programs, recruiting top students, retaining leading scientists and scholars, pursuing outstanding research, and engendering among students, faculty, and staff a deep commitment to learning and discovery. Great universities such as this one create new knowledge, produce high-quality graduates, and impact our society. That is both for the university a duty and a privilege. I want to now turn to brain power and knowledge, the stock in trade of universities. Look at the immense talent in this room today, the brain power on this very sunny November afternoon. Knowledge is simply the most valuable asset out there. It is exportable, importable, transferable, scalable, available to be richly mined without damaging the environment. It is the most basic and most abundant, truly natural resource. This is something I learned early on. You heard in the introduction that my father immigrated to this country. He was a surgeon, a urologist. Unclear, the number that's been cited is somewhere between $60 and $200. I've heard $60 in his pocket in a couple of suitcases. At nearly 40 years of age, with my mother, a teacher, with a couple of master's degree and some knowledge of cultural affairs in China. What they had of value and what carried them through was not what was contained in those suitcases, what was contained in their heads. It was my parents' knowledge and their quality higher education, their professions, their skills, their confidence that enabled them to rebuild their lives in Canada, providing their children with the many opportunities that we had. We're constantly learning and gathering knowledge as we move from one stage of our lives to another, from one experience to another, from one job to another, from one relationship to another. Knowledge is, of course, infinite. You never really stop absorbing it or indeed distributing it. As an advisor, a mentor, a professor, a friend. Giving younger people that first experience, that first sink or swim opportunity they never dreamed of, or exposing them to some of the places that they will eventually be from, is actually more empowering than receiving it. After knowledge, the next word I want to cover that has an influence in my life is courage. Fear paralyzes. Absolute fear paralyzes absolutely. Aristotle said courage is the first of human qualities because it guarantees all the others. With all the knowledge in the world, we get nowhere without courage. Courage to leave, courage to stay, courage to change or be an unreasonable catalyst for change in others. Courage to admit your mistakes, to avoid the temptation to hide, and to rectify things. Lorsque je suis revenu à Air Canada, le jour du poisson en avril 2009, personne n'a pensé que c'était par courage. Certains ont dit que c'était une forme déplorable de sadomasochisme. De toute évidence, j'entrais en courant dans une maison en feu. Pour les sociétés aériennes, les années 2008 et 2009 ont été les pires depuis la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, effaçant les profits de la décennie précédente. Le prix du carburant a atteint des niveaux jamais vus et le monde était en récession. Air Canada avait perdu $1 milliard en 2008 et les liquidités de l'entreprise étaient épuisées. Les déficits des régimes de retraite étaient dans les milliards. Toutes nos principales conventions collectives arrivaient à échéance. Les marchés du financement nous étaient pratiquement fermés. Tout se mettait en place pour une crise épique. En ce qui concerne notre équipe de direction, c'était l'occasion idéale de faire preuve de courage. À l'époque, j'ai comparé ces problèmes à une cube Rubik. Nous devions nous occuper de tous les faces en même temps et nous ne pouvions rien régler avant de les avoir tous résolus. Si déraisonnable que cela puisse paraître, nous devions tendre et tourner ce cube Rubik sous le regard de tout le pays. J'espère qu'il y a certains d'entre vous qui savent qu'est-ce que c'est un cube Rubik. Notre équipe de gestion devait non seulement croire que c'était possible d'y parvenir, mais encore donner l'impression que c'était possible. Leur courage a porté fruit, car nous nous sommes tirés d'affaire. And now, a few years later, a great Canadian brand is once again a proud global champion for Canada with ambitious prospects for the future with thousands of jobs and pensions saved. I tell you this story not for purposes of patting ourselves on the back. I tell you this to get at the root of courage. Often when things are the bleakest, when people have nothing to lose, they discover their greatest creativity, find the most unreasonable or crazy ideas, and access their deepest inner resources, and are then able to unleash the greatest courage. Which brings me to the third and final word, in case you're getting concerned, that I want to discuss today, mindfulness, awareness. This third message is simple. Pay attention. Moment-to-moment awareness of present events can freeze frame time, action and reaction of those around you. You should be able to see, if not hear, a pin drop on the other end of a noisy room. Read body language. Learn how to enter the mind of those you are dealing with, whether they are your colleagues, your employees, your customers, your partners, or your adversaries. Start seeing around corners. Somewhat theoretical, perhaps psychobabble, you might say, but being ultra-aware helps to better explain successes, failures, facts, and circumstances in hindsight. I found this to be extremely useful in planning strategy, anticipating reactions, creating alternative realities, and better seeing endings before beginnings. Practice it enough and you can practically read minds. La dure réalité est que vous aurez besoin d'une dose massive de connaissances, de courage et de conscience pour réussir dans le milieu de travail hautement concurrentiel et mondialisé dans lequel vous entrez. En fait, vous en aurez besoin beaucoup plus que j'en aurais eu besoin moi-même quand j'ai obtenu mon diplôme en 1980. Pourquoi? Parce que, comme on dit, se situer dans la moyenne n'est plus suffisant. Pas en éducation, pas en affaires, certainement pas dans le contexte où la mondialisation suivra son cours et où les pays en développement ressembleront de plus en plus aux pays développés. So as you leave this great institution, remember that every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. If we could lead our lives in reverse from deathbed, using our experience to enhance what it is we are doing, it would be a lot easier, but of course life doesn't operate that way. All of you have the raw materials, judging at least in part from what you take away from your unique university experience. You've exhibited a capacity for hard work, discipline to study and complete what you've started. So now as you embark on the next stages of your lives, primed to succeed, be unreasonable in your expectations, be aware, audacious, and make your presence known in your communities, and courageous, innovative, and speedy in execution. The passage of time is arrogant and will not wait for you. So while today is for reflection and congratulation, tomorrow is for execution and success. I'm extremely honored to receive this honorary doctorate, Mr. Chancellor, and really pleased to become a permanent member of the extended Concordia family. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very, very much.
Dr. Rovinescu, thank you for your illuminating remarks. I know that I'm sure everybody here will feel a sense of courage after today. Thank you.